Me? Kirito? OP? Nah, not likely. But excuse me while I scale this sheer, near indestructible building with nothing but my magic and physical strength. Hello everybody and welcome to another light novel review. I am Justus and on this channel I cover all things light novels. I do reviews, countdowns of the most popular titles in Japan, as well as news, and this is also the home of the Light Novel Podcast. So if you love light novels or you're just starting to get interested in them, you should consider subscribing. In this review I'm going to be covering volume number 13 of Reki Kawahara's light novel series Sword Art Online, this being Alicization Dividing. Now, of course, the new season of Sword Art Online, the anime, is about to begin in October, and it is going to be covering the Alicization Arc, which is the final published arc of Sword Art Online, although supposedly there will be a new arc starting at some point, but currently it is the last published arc of the main series. This one's released officially in English by Yen On. If you want to pick up your own copy from either Amazon or the Book Depository, I've got links in the description down below. Now, if you've been on this channel for a while, you know that I try to keep my reviews spoiler-free, but I've got to be really honest. There's going to be some spoilers in this video. I will try and keep them as minor as possible, warn you if I'm about to go off on a tangent about something that's more spoilerish, but there's just no way to talk about this volume, both the good and the bad about it, without at least revealing some things that happen. And because it's volume number 13, I mean, heck, I can't even talk about this without at least spoiling stuff that's happened beforehand, so yeah, consider yourself warned, but I'll do my best to keep it really spoiler light. So starting off, this one, of course, we start off with Kirito and Alice at the end of volume 12. They were about to cast major badass sort of moves against each other and boom! Smashed open the wall of the tower and got sucked out to fall God knows how long. I mean, they were up on what, the 85th floor or something ridiculous like that, so yeah, they were gone, leaving poor Yu-Gi-Oh all by his lonesome to continue up the tower and potentially face the most powerful Integrity Knight, that being the very first Integrity Knight, Broccoli. Well, yeah. So we have two sort of things happening in this book. We have Yu-Gi-Oh's journey, and then of course his face-off with the Knight Commander of the Integrity Knights. And then we have Kirito and Alice trying to set aside their differences to survive and try and scale about 40 stories of a building that's considered to be nigh indestructible, and all they have is their magic and their strength. Yeah. That's going to be one of those things I'm going to mention as kind of, about this book. First off, let's start with sort of the good about this book. There are a couple of things that are quite decent. One of them in particular revolves around Yu-Gi-Oh! First of all, the Integrity Knight Commander, Broccoli, is actually a really cool character. I found that I liked him. Unlike some of the other Integrity Knights who seem to be, well, a bit of a bunch of zealots, even though we know they've been kind of had their noodle messed with, but still, they were still dedicated to the cause, and they were still going to destroy Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh! Because they were this, that, and the next, because Administrator said so. But Broccoli's not really like that. He's a bit more chill. I mean, considering that he's just taking a nice warm bath, a nice warm soak in the springs when Yu-Gi-Oh! Encounters him. And the battle between these two, I thought, was really kind of cool. Not only does it demonstrate how Broccoli himself has a very simple move, but it's incredibly powerful, but it also goes a long way to show the strength and determination of Yu-Gi-Oh! And to show how his character has developed from that sort of naive kid chopping away at a tree in the middle of Bumpkin Land, and then is now this kid who has spent 2 years journeying to find his lost friend. It says a lot about Yu-Gi-Oh's character, this particular battle, and in particular how Yu-Gi-Oh intends to win this seemingly insurmountable battle. I really liked it, which is one of the things that made me really angry about what's done to Yu-Gi-Oh later on in the book. And this is going to be a spoiler, so I'll leave it until a little bit later. Then we have Kirito and Alice. Now, pretty much self-preservation in Alice's mind takes over, so she decides to set aside the fact that she's to destroy Kirito because, you know, he's an evil enemy of the church, but she decides that she's not going to survive on her own. She needs him to help her. And so the two of them kind of come up with this plan of how they're going to scale a sheer wall about 40 stories tall, and the thing is that it's near indestructible as an object. So Kirito has this moment. I'm kind of flipping a little bit, but it's relevant to what I've just been describing. Kirito has this moment in this book where he discusses about the fact that in terms of ability and strength, Yu-Gi-Oh and Alice are far more powerful than he is. He has this, it's not really a revelation, it's just the fact that he's talking about it because, you know, he's talking about the fact that Yu-Gi-Oh is alone and facing whatever in there, and that he's kind of like, well, he's stronger than I am, so that's kind of holding out hope that, you know, despite Kirito having these skills that he has learned over the years, Yu-Gi-Oh has a lot more innate talent and ability than Kirito does. And Kirito actually has this moment where I kind of was like, wow, he gets it. He's not ignorant about why he is strong and why he's gotten this far. And then he proceeds to summon these like hooks or whatever out of thin air, use one arm to smash them into the wall strong enough so that he can actually support he and Alice's weight, and then starts climbing up the wall that way. And I think this kind of gets to the point of why I like this series and hate this series all at the same time. You have this moment where you're kind of like, wow, this is like a good character moment. I'm glad I read this. But then he does something near ridiculous that you're just kind of like, and there you go again. Just, you know, I would have preferred to see Alice bail his butt out of the fire and have to do what needed to be done to get up the wall. Like, it just, I don't know. To me, it was like the whole ascending the wall thing was, well, it was a little bit hokey. But I understand, of course, from a story point of view, why it was necessary, because it meant that the separation of our team, and it gave Alice and Kirito this time to sort of put aside their differences, and for Kirito to start kind of deprogramming Alice and trying to get her on his and Yu-Gi-Oh's side, because, well, he knows there's no way that Yu-Gi-Oh is going to allow him to harm her, and their lives will be a lot easier facing Administrator if they have an incredibly powerful Integrity Knight on their side, particularly if it happens to be the girl that they're there to save in the first place. There's actually some okay moments with Kirito and Alice in terms of building up more of a bond between them, in terms of Alice starting to have her vision opened to what's actually been going on, and her growing in a willingness to actually follow with Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh. So there is a good aspect to that. Now I'll talk a little bit about the whole thing with Yu-Gi-Oh, and again, it's a little bit spoilerish, but I will do my best to try and keep it vague so, you know, it doesn't blow the whole thing for you. essentially, Yu-Gi-Oh comes into a point in the story where he is made to have doubt about himself and about his mission and about wanting to save Alice and everything else. And the way that it's played off is sort of trying to manipulate him at some sort of base emotional level. This sort of like you see it all the time where heroes, they try to be turned because of their insecurities or whatever. The enemy plays on their insecurities and stuff. The problem that I have with it is that it just seemed like Yu-Gi-Oh was way stronger than that. There were things that were played on that have never really come up as an issue up until now. And there was no reason for us to ever question that Yu-Gi-Oh felt that way up until now. It just seemed like it was rushed for the sake of convenience. It seemed like it was done in a somewhat half-hearted way. I didn't feel like there was enough build-up throughout Yu-Gi-Oh's journey as a character to make me buy that he could be manipulated that way. So that was my kind of, especially like I said, when his battle with Broccoli is almost like a battle of wills, and it makes it seem like Yu-Gi-Oh is incredibly strong. And I know that probably the way this will be played off, and I am sure that a number of you will use this as a way to defend this situation, it is the fact that at that point Yu-Gi-Oh, of course, is quite weak. He's, quite tapered out and burned out and everything else. So I kind of get that, but it just doesn't quite fly, in particular when they talk about Alice's experience when she was first brought to the cathedral. I just can't kind of make those things work in my own mind. And it just doesn't really fit with the image that I have had of Yu-Gi-Oh, even from the beginning, but most certainly the image I have had of Yu-Gi-Oh as the story has progressed. That is probably my biggest gripe about this volume. But like I said, I can't hate on it. It has some very good stuff in it. It has some good character moments. It has this really, in particular for Sword Art, some kind of very twisted and distorted imagery and a very gruesome in some ways demonstration of just how perverse this whole religion has become and the way that Underworld is operated under Administrator. It's funny that a villain in Sword Art Online can be built up to actually be a good villain, and it's mostly just by seeing the effects of her. It's seeing her influence. It's not actually just seeing her actual actions. In most of the other Sword Art books, it's always been like, oh, well, I'm the villain because I'm going to try and rape somebody, or I've taken them hostage, or I kill people. It doesn't seem that, obviously there are some of those situations, but it's so much more complex than that. Like the manipulation, the twisting people to her will, and it's much more insidious in a lot of ways than just being openly villainous. And again, that is something I kind of like about this Alicization arc. So there are these positives in this book and in this volume, but then, like I said, I'm just kind of like, yeah, Kirito, you're not really OP. You've just gotten lucky, and there you go, climbing a building that's supposedly near indestructible just by jamming things in the wall, because you're not OP. And then, like I said, the whole Yu-Gi-Oh being kind of manipulated and attacked emotionally, it just didn't sit right with me. It just didn't seem that the character, we had seen those cracks in his armor as the series has gone on. And, you know, again, maybe I've missed something along the way, but that was my feeling on the whole thing, and it just kind of made me go, I think that could have been handled better. But overall, you know what? Alicization still strong, still decent, still taking the series to a place where I'm very interested to see how this is all going to pan out. And of course, you know, leaves this volume on an even bigger cliffhanger than the last volume. And depending on how you feel about these characters, probably an even more emotionally ratcheted up cliffhanger than what we had in the last volume. Because, I mean, let's face it, we knew Kirito and Alice weren't going to die. I mean, come on, like, you knew that. So those are my thoughts on volume number 13 of Sword Art Online, Alicization Dividing. My next review, I've decided to go with a little bit more of a snarky main character, and that's going to be volume number 2 of So I'm a Spider, So What? I really liked the first volume of this one, and I've actually fallen a bit behind because volume 3 is currently available, and I wanted to catch up because I like this series. Like I said, I liked the main character and sort of her snarky kind of voice, and I've read some really positive reviews. Like, I actually haven't read the review, just, you know, positive sort of, Volume 3 is awesome, and I want to get there because I want to see what it's like for myself, so that'll be my next review. So if you love light novels and you're brand new to the channel, you should consider subscribing. I do 2 to 3 reviews a week, as well as a countdown of the most popular titles in Japan, and the Light Novel Podcast gets posted here as well. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.